What's up? It's Andy. Welcome back to my channel. This is my reading wrap up for August 2019. I did read 18 books this month, so that was pretty good. Some things that I kind of like to keep track of. Out of those 18 books, 13 were borrowed and 5 I own, whether that be physical or ebook form. And altogether I had 6 5-star reads, 10 4-stars, 1 3-star, and 1 2-star. 13 of the books that I read were audiobooks because audiobooks are live. 3 were own voices, which is important. And 9 were diverse, so that's half. They were diverse in some way. And there were 2 arcs, so let's get into it. The first book I finished was Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. I did end up giving this 4 stars. This has a lot of magical realism in it, which, as mentioned in my last video, sometimes does not mesh well with me. And this town they live in is basically a utopia, dystopia, I guess. No one dies, there's no illness, anything like that. But every 7 years there's a slaughter moon and the best boy has to get sacrificed so that everything keeps being perfect. There is this strange mystical forest which was basically a character in itself, and it was very atmospheric, which I enjoyed. The 3 main characters get into a polyamorous relationship, which was kind of cool to see in a fantasy setting. I did listen to the audio, which was good, but I think this is one of those books where I want to sit down and actually like physically read it to like get all the nuance and everything. But overall, I really did like it. Next, I finished Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is his 3rd book. Final Girls, I really liked. His 2nd book, The Last Time I Lied, I really didn't care for that much. But oh my word, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was a wild ride. I have talked about this in one of my videos. I cannot remember off the top of my head which one right now. But basically the main character finds an ad to be an apartment sitter pretty much. And there's rules like she's not allowed to have people like stay the night, like people can't really come over, and she's not supposed to be gone overnight at all. And there's some other things, but I don't want to give every single thing away. The ending threw me for a loop. Like, you spend the whole book wondering, like, what the heck is this apartment complex? And what are these people doing? And why are there weird rules? The main character befriends another apartment sitter, and they become, you know, good friends. And then all of a sudden, she leaves. So most of the book is figuring out where'd she go, what happened, and why. This definitely gave me some American Horror Story Hotel kind of feelings, and reminded me of The Girl Before in certain aspects as well. So if you like those, you might like this. Then I read Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the 2nd book in the Shadow and Bone series. I'm not going to talk about plot for this one because it is the 2nd book in a series, but in the 1st book, Shadow and Bone, our main characters are Alina and Mal, and Alina is grown up her whole life in an orphanage thinking she's just an ordinary girl, but she is something called a Grisha, which are kind of like witches, I guess. There's different types of Grisha and they each have their own special abilities. And you know, we have the big bad villain, the Darkling, which I just finished the last book, Ruin and Rising, today, and I just cannot. So we're not talking about that right now. I, of course, gave this 5 stars. Leigh Bardugo is definitely some kind of goddess that I've never heard about, and she's definitely a new favorite author for sure. I cannot believe it has taken me so long to get into this series, and to think I was just gonna jump into Six of Crows without reading this trilogy. I've heard that you don't have to, and some people say that you get more out of the Six of Crows duology having read this series, and I have no regrets, honestly. Speaking of amazing series, I also read The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is the first book in the Diviners series. This takes place in New York City in the 1920s. So first of all, for it being in the 20s, there is a lot of racism. So just kind of be aware of that going in. But this is so spooky, and I'm so glad that I'm reading this series this fall. Ugh. What finally pushed me to start this series at this time was the Diviners Read Along, hosted by Chelsea Darling Reads. It's Jane Lindsay, Novel Inc., and of course Mel to the Any. This book follows a group of characters that are what's called diviners, which basically means they each have different kind of powers. One main character, Evie, she can like touch items and get visions from them. There's like a healer, some people can walk in dreams, that kind of stuff. Just in case I didn't already say it, I gave that 5 out of 5 stars, and I am currently almost through Layer of Dreams and Ermagerd. After as much hype as I gave this beautiful cover, I finally actually read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Pretty much everyone's has talked about this, so I'll kind of keep it brief. This story is told through interviews. So the audiobook I found very helpful because there were different voice actors for each character, so it wasn't confusing at all. I wanted to like give this 5 stars and like absolutely live for it, but I did give it 4 stars, which of course is also amazing. Just the ending didn't really do that much for me. Like, I really enjoyed following these characters and learning about the band and everything, but like if you don't care at all about like 70s like the band scene and kind of like behind the music type stuff, then you probably won't like this that much. Like, the reveal at the end was okay. Like, the ending didn't really do that much for me, so I gave it 4 stars. I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This follows our main character, April, who discovers this big, like, transformer-like statue robot thing. She names him Carl and hurries up and makes a YouTube video about him. Like, she's thinking it's just an art piece and wants to appreciate it and make a video about it and put it out. But it turns out that there have been a lot of Carls that popped up all over the world at the same exact time. April's video ends up going viral and she gets super YouTube famous, even real life famous. Like, she ends up being on all sorts of talk shows and stuff, and it really goes to her head, and she is basically an insufferable narcissist, which I didn't like. But overall, I really did enjoy the plot and thought it was really unique, and I would definitely be interested to read more from Hank Green. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be a series. So that being said, I did give it 4 stars. The next book I read for a book club that's at my local library, which is called Another Round. And if you are in my area, message me if you want to find out some details. You should definitely check it out. It's a super awesome book club. But for this month, we read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. I had read this quite a while ago and didn't really remember it, but basically it is The Breakfast Club meets Gossip Girl. This group of teenagers is in detention and one of them ends up dying, so the whole rest of the book is figuring out how this kid died. I found it really enjoyable and I did like the character dynamics. I gave it 4 stars. And there's also a sequel coming out next year, which I'm excited for. The sequel follows one of the main character's sisters and her friends, so I'm pretty pumped about that. I did enjoy how the author developed these characters throughout the book. They each kind of start off as stereotypes and get developed into much more. The one gripe that I do have with this is how the topics of depression and suicide were handled. I feel like the author could have done more with that, or at least for God's sakes thrown like a couple hotline numbers at the end of the book. But maybe that's just me. Next was an arc that I got off NetGalley. It was To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace, who of course also wrote The Princess Saves Herself in this one, and you know, that whole series, which I love those as well. I did give this 5 stars. It does deal with a lot of grief and mother-daughter relationships, and of course I also liked all the mentions of like metaphysical things. Like she talks about how her mom is the one that taught her about tarot, and she mentions crystals and all that kind of stuff. So you know, yeah, definitely 5 out of 5 stars. And actually this is the second collection in the Things That Haunt series, and I currently have the first one, I can't remember the name right now, checked out from my library, and am going to be reading that very soon. I don't really want to talk about this. I really don't. This is my 2-star read, A Course of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This was nothing but a useless money grab, and it completely ruined Reese for me. Like, I just can't. Literally, there was no point to this book, no plot or anything whatsoever, and like Reese's inner dialogue in this was just so disgusting and piggish, and ooh, my mate this and that, and like literally all he thought about was screwing. So, which is all fine and dandy, and like that was really what I wanted out of this book, was some more like Reese and Feyre action. But just no, dog. Like, I think I'm done with Sarah J. Maas. So literally, yeah. Enough of that train wreck. Good news was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Our main character works at what I'm assuming is some kind of daycare, and she ends up finding an ad for a live-in nanny, and she takes it. And these people live in a smart house, so definitely gave me, remember that movie Smart House on Disney? It really made me think of that. She goes into this house to nanny for these kids, and right off the bat, these kids are brats. Like, you know, as always with these thrillers, things start off fishy right off the bat. She goes for the interview for the job, and the dad isn't even there. Which, okay, weird. And the kids' mom wants her to start right away, and then when she starts, they leave town like immediately. There's no kind of like transition period, like, okay, you're the new nanny, you're still, you know, these kids are getting used to you, you don't really know anything about this house or like their routines. Like, the mom does not stick around at all. They leave town right away. And of course, it's a thriller, so weird stuff starts going down. I didn't know where this was about to go, and I could not stop reading it. And I'm so glad I gave Ruth Ware a chance after hearing kind of bad things about her other books. But I did give this 5 stars. It threw me for a loop, and I'm just, you know, I gotta say that I'm really glad that this was the month of me reading some good thrillers, because the last few thrillers I read, I just felt very lackluster about. So I'm glad I really loved some. Next, I read The Right Swipe by Alicia Ray. This was the August Dragons and Tea Book Club book, which is ran by Mel to the Any. I did give this a 5 stars on Goodreads, but maybe it's more like a 4.5-ish. I don't know. But I super loved it. I've mentioned the main character, Rhiannon, in my last video. She is a boss. She's so strong and does not put up with nobody's shit at all. I love the representation. This is a story about people of color falling in love, written by a woman of color, so that's own voices, amazingness. Rhiannon and our other main character, Samson, had met before this book even starts. They had like a little one-night stand kind of situation, and then Samson basically ghosts her. So she is trying to buy a rival matchmaking company, and Samson is their new spokesperson. But Samson and Rhiannon are forced to work together, so there's like a little bit of hate to love going on and a second chance romance. Samson is an ex-football player, and there was a really interesting discussion about brain injury and football players, how that affects them later in life. So that was definitely something different to see in a book. Overall, I really did enjoy this book, and I cannot wait for the sequel to come out because it follows Rhiannon's roommate, Katrina, I believe is her name, and she was my favorite, so I'm super pumped. Then I randomly decided to pick up the audiobook of 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. This can definitely be compared to The Fault in Our Stars, which people have kind of mixed feelings about now. It follows 2 main characters that have cystic fibrosis, and the issue with that is they catch any kind of like bacteria and get sick. It can be deadly for them. So it's a forbidden romance where the stakes are super high. I wasn't really expecting to like this that much, honestly. I don't know why. Maybe the whole like sick kids trope thing maybe turned me off. But I fell hard for these characters. They are so well written and you really root for all of them, even the side characters. I cried a couple times hard for this book. Will and Stella were super cute, and I did like the ending of it. It was also pretty neat that Stella had a YouTube channel talking about her experience having CF. And she had, you know, quite a good following. She was pretty popular. She takes her medications and treatments very seriously. And then you have Will, who has kind of lost all hope and is over it, is done doing his treatments, is like basically ready to die and give up. And she basically makes him care again. Don't really want to give the whole book away, but I did give this 4 stars. It was really cute. And the last thing I finished before Smutathon was This Is Me by Chrissy Metz. And if you don't know, she is an actress in the show This Is Us, which I actually haven't watched and I don't know why. But that's a lie. I do know why, because I know it's just gonna make me cry. This book is Chrissy's memoir pretty much, and the audiobook is narrated by her, which I love. This I gave 4 stars. I really did like it. It really delves into a lot of hard topics. Her being, you know, issues with being shamed because she is plus size, and you know, everything that goes along with that, and the abuse that she took from her stepdad, and being treated like she was less than pretty much her whole life. And it's her journey finally, you know, coming into her own, realizing that she's super talented. She can sing and act, and she's amazing at it, actually. Side note, I think she would make the best Ursula in the live action The Little Mermaid. Could you imagine? So it is kind of weird rating people's personal stories, but I did give this 4 stars. I really did like it, and now I really do want to actually watch This Is Us. Alright, so the last 4 books I'm not really going to talk about. I can refer you to my Smutathon vlog. So just real quick, because I do talk about all of these books at length in that vlog. The first one is Misadventures of a Curvy Girl by Sierra Simone. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. Plus size girl enters into a polyamorous relationship with 2 hunky dudes. Yeah. Then Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. Yeah, very weird. Basically alien smut, pretty much. You want to know more about that? Watch the vlog. I gave it 3 stars. It was a good time. I have not continued with that series at this time, but I could definitely keep that on the list for future Smutathons. And Swing Volume 1, which is a graphic novel about a couple that tries swinging. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't really like that the story ended when it was just heating up, but that did leave me wanting more, so I guess it did its job. Last but definitely not least was The Queen of Dauphine Street by Thea Dessau. I gushed about this enough in my Smuttathon vlog. 5 out of 5 stars. This series is everything. Like, it's a lot of smut, but a lot more than that. This is the second book in a series, so go ahead and read The King of Bourbon Street first if you're interested. But it was a good time, and I'm so glad that I decided to finally pick it up. Well, that's all 18 things I read in the month of August. As always, go ahead and check me out on other platforms, linked below. And I will link that Smuttathon vlog below too, because you should watch it anyways, because it's pretty good. And go ahead and click the subscribe button and check out some of my other videos. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!